Hey everybody, it's me, Angela Walters, and welcome to my weekly live chat. I'm super excited that you're here hanging out with me for a half an hour or so while we talk about one of my favorite things, machine quilting. If you're watching this live, as always, I have Jessica behind the computer monitoring the chat, writing down any questions. So if you have a free motion quilting question that you've just been dying to get asked, let us know. I'll be glad to answer it. If you have never joined us for a live chat, I'm glad you're here. We kind of just get together and talk about something related to machine quilting. It's usually like a tutorial, or I show some pictures of quilting, answer your questions live. It's just kind of a way to touch base and connect and kind of, talk about quilting. But today's a little different because I have a little bit of an announcement. I love getting on the live chat, getting to know everybody. And then before I actually go live, about a half an hour before, I go to the video and we type chat. So if you're ever early, you can definitely join in. And it's during those type chats that people ask questions or give me suggestions or ideas. And about a month ago, somebody said you really should do a holiday themed free motion challenge quilting along. And I kind of joked, I'm like, well, I'll put it on my list. But then, sometimes those ideas kind of wiggle around in the back of your head. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to do one, it needs to be quick. And so I'm excited to tell you that we are going to do a holiday style mini free motion challenge. So it's going to be a little bit different than I've done before. Think of a little bit smaller, a little bit quicker, and some other fun stuff in it. So today I'm going to kind of just go through all that stuff with you and share it. It's so funny because since it is holiday themed or Christmas themed, I have been humming Christmas songs and kind of getting all into the Christmas mood. So we're calling it the Season's Greetings Quilting Along. Now, for those of you that know me, I do a lot of machine quilting videos and tutorials. That is kind of my passion. But I also do the Midnight Quilter, what's kind of more focused on piecing and projects. But in this video series, I'm kind of bringing them together. So it's either going to be amazing or a crazy show, right? So we're going to be doing a little bit of both, and it's going to be in November. If you've participated in my free motion challenge quilting alongs before, they're kind of 4 or 5 videos. It's a kind of a bigger panel. This is going to be a little bit more condensed. The idea being that we can spend November together learning some machine quilting, making some fun little quilted gifts just in time for the holiday season. Because I do know that, it gets busy with family and other stuff. As much as we just want to quilt all day and have nobody bother us, unfortunately, that's not always possible. So as I was kind of wrapping my head around it, I'm like, okay, we'll do a little bit of a smaller thing. It'll be a lot of fun. And so, of course, I had to kind of think about what it was I wanted to teach. And one question I'm asked a lot, and I won't say a ton, it's not like the number one question, but a very common question is how to quilt around applique. And so with that in mind, I thought we're going to talk about machine quilting applique, echoing, and then even throwing in some holiday-themed quilting designs. Just having a good old festive time about it. Now, to be fair, I am that kind of person that loves to listen to Christmas carols early, so this is right up my alley. If you're not, I'm really sorry about that. But what we're going to be doing is quilting through a panel together. So in the 4 videos, one's going to be machine quilting and then projects, and then machine quilting and then projects. So kind of mixing it up. I'm hoping that it makes perfect sense. It does in my head, but sometimes when you're trying something new, it all kind of goes crazy. So the first video, we're going to be quilting the panel. So this is the panel I designed for the series. It's smaller than our normal free motion panel. It's 36 by 42, so not quite as big. And of course, it has that beautiful poinsettia in the center, some elements to go around, and we're going to pretend that those are applique. I did toy with the idea of having you all do some needle turn applique to get ready for this, but let's be honest, I'm never going to do it, so why would I make you guys do it? So in that first video, we're going to be quilting the panel. We're going to be talking about how to add details in some of the designs, like that nice, big, beautiful poinsettia in the center, how we can use echoing to highlight. If you've listened to anything I've ever done, it's going to have something about echoing in there, right? We're going to talk about how to build up around that applique to really show it off, and then maybe throw in a couple little, like I said, Christmas kind of themed designs. So you can kind of see some of that detail there. The idea being that once we're done, we have this beautiful panel that we can then hang on our wall and be super proud of, or turn into some fun projects. There's a little bit of those holly leaves right there. So no matter where you are, though, on your machine quilting journey, whether you're brand new or just looking for some design inspiration, this series is for you. I'm going to be showing some different options and making it nice and fun, all while having a festive kind of holiday spirit with that. So the first video, that's what we'll be doing, quilting. Then in the second video, we're going to take that panel and turn it into some quilted projects. Now, of course, you could leave it just as it is, bind it and hang it on the wall. I love a good wall hanging, but maybe it doesn't quite fit your decor, or maybe you don't have enough wall space. We're going to take that panel and chop it up and make projects out of it, which I mean, kind of is funny when I think about it, because never would I do that to an actual quilt. But it's just a good way to kind of see what we can make out of it. So we'll talk about turning that panel into a smaller wall hanging and some placemats by cutting it up and putting some binding around it. I love how kind of abstract those placemats look when they're chopped up, just kind of nice and fun. And then we'll also talk about how you can do other projects with it too. So I don't have those all finished yet. I will, waiting on all my test prints, but a really fun way to take that quilted piece and turn it into something different, especially if you've quilted it and you're like, I don't really love how I did this here. Well, we could just cut that out and put it aside. Maybe we'll flip that placemat upside down. But the idea being that we can turn it into some fun projects, because it does always seem kind of around the holiday season, we want to make some quilted gifts, so kind of fun. Then in the third video, we're going to quilt a second panel, and this one is the pillow panel. So smaller than the first one. It's 22 inches by 42, give or take. So a little bit smaller project. Just like we saw with the first one, that video will be all about the machine quilting. So if you're like newer to machine quilting and you don't want to commit to doing the bigger panel, this might be a nicer option, a little bit more manageable, or you could do them both, of course. But what we're going to be doing with that quilting is using my brand new stencils to quilt it. So ribbon candy and swirls. And this was another thing that was brought up during the type chat. People were asking about, why don't you do some stencils? And I said, I don't have a way to make that happen. Well, Anna B said, I'll take care of it. And she made it happen. So we'll talk about using the stencils to kind of quilt those lines. Stencils are great as a path that you can travel, gives you something to look at so that you don't have to do all the things at the same time. And of course, we'll be talking about other Christmas or holiday themed quilting designs as well. So kind of fun playing around with that. And then the last video, video number 4, we'll take that smaller panel and also turn it into some quilted projects. Again, you could leave it just as it is. It's a beautiful wall hanging. It could hang vertically, look gorgeous right there, or you can make some different things out of it, which is what we'll be doing. And so I thought it'd be fun to turn it into some quilted stockings. Because I think the thing about practicing machine quilting is maybe sometimes we don't want those samples just laying around. Maybe we want to turn it into something smaller or something kind of different. So this hopefully just to kind of give you some ideas of what could we do with that stuff to turn it into some different things. So these are just kind of mocked up. Again, I just got the test prints in, but I can't wait to show all the fun stuff we're going to make with it. And then also cutting it into some smaller quilted pillows. So again, we're going to do some zipper pouches. I'm going to do a little ornament display thing. I have some fun stuff up my sleeve. But basically the main idea will be kind of alternating between making quilted projects and quilting the panel. And what's great about my videos, I guess that sounds a little conceited to say, but one thing I love about my videos is you don't necessarily have to have the panels to participate. So if you don't want to quilt either one of the panels, just grab your quilted samples from previous challenges and you can make the projects that we've seen there. Or if you have something else, Christmas themed you want to quilt up, you can do that as well. So just, like I said, a little bit of joining up the free motion challenge with the Midnight Quilter. So that means a little bit more wine when I'm quilting, which I think sounds like a really good idea because we know I love that. Now, if you do want to participate, I do have the products available for pre-sale. Now, the videos aren't going to start until November. So we have a good couple months, but I knew I wanted to kind of get in here with you guys early, let you know about it now, because, the year gets kind of crazy the closer we get to Christmas. So it's a good time to go ahead and pre-order those, and we'll have them shipping out mid-September into September. Plenty of time for you to get ready for this series. So let's look at those products. They're nothing too crazy. First, we have the 2 panels. We have the 36 by 42, which is about a yard size of fabric, and then that smaller pillow panel. This time, though, there's no borders or anything like that. If you've participated in prior video series where I've had optional borders, we're not doing any of that. We were trying to keep it a little bit more streamlined, mostly for the sake of the sanity of my employees and crew, but also for you all. So, but they do come with some backing options, which I'll show you here in a second. One thing I want to point out, what's so interesting about computers and digital renderings is it doesn't always give that true to color look. And so when I was kind of pulling up the graphics, if you look at the Christmas graphic or the one on the right, it looks really kind of emerald green, which is beautiful. but it's really a more darker kind of color. So I'm showing you kind of the quilted panel right next to it so you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like kind of in real life. But I wanted something kind of classic, but without being like super kitschy. It was kind of what I was going for. And then we can see the two different sizes. So we have the smaller one and the larger one, just depending on, wherever your whims may take you. And I should say, before I get too far, all the information about this is in the description box below. So click the link in the description box. And I did totally forget that I'm giving away one of these stencils to people watching live. So I meant to say that when I showed the stencil. So if you're watching the chat live right now, leave a comment and Jessica will pick a lucky winner here in just a few minutes. So anyway, the panels are available in two different sizes. These kits will come with the backing and binding fabric already. So no choices to make. You get your panel, your backing gets shipped to you, and ready to go. So we went with like a really kind of festive kind of plaid. It's just been a lot of fun kind of thinking about Christmas stuff. I just kind of had fun with it. Now, one thing I've done in previous video series that I'm gonna do again is I made some custom pins. I don't know why, I just love flair. I kind of like just collecting them on my stuff. But with purchase of the panels, we'll have a little pin that goes with it too, just a little poinsettia pin. So if you're keeping all your pins from the previous challenges, you can hang it up with that. That's while supplies last, of course. Now we know I love thread. And really, it's the thread and the quilting on this panel that makes it come to life and makes it shine. So I put together 3 spools for like a mini thread collection if you want to get the coordinating threads with it. So it's colors I thought would look beautiful. I mean, no huge, joke or like surprise here. It's red, green, and gold. But I love the just the subtle shades of it. So the sand thread isn't like super gold, but it's a little bit of that sheen, just looks beautiful without being like, glitter thread. And then Valentine, that nice, rich, kind of deep red, and then Sprout. And that green is such a fun green. It's not so dark, but it's not super bright, but it looks beautiful on the background of the panel. So one of my favorite things, and I've said this before, is picking out the threads for the challenge, kind of going through all the options. Now, if you are participating, or if you're not, I put together some coordinating prints that go with it. So just kind of a little mini holiday-themed collection, and that's going to be available on the website as too. So just you can kind of see the different prints there. One thing I want to point out, these are pre-order only. So I know I've kind of said it, but I just kind of want to reiterate it. That way Jessica doesn't have to get all the emails from you all saying, I ordered it, where's it at? So all of this will be, like I said, shipping mid-September towards the end of September, which is kind of fun if you think about it, because that just means you'll get some happy mail. You'll be like, oh, look at that. So looking forward to really kind of we're working through some machine quilting techniques, like I said, echoing, stitching along the applique, adding details within applique, because that's always a question too, like should I quilt within the applique or not? And then also learning maybe some designs that look great on festive kind of holiday quilts, but could also be used in other places as well. So this kind of came together pretty quickly. I always, once a notion takes me, it's fun to run with it. But I'm super excited about this, and I hope that you all are looking forward to it too. So for more details, you can just click the link in the description box below, or you go to quiltingismytherapy.com. And that's also, the videos will be on my YouTube channel. So on my website and my YouTube channel, you don't have to sign up for anything. You'll just kind of see them as long as you're subscribed. So be sure to subscribe. So that is what has been kind of occupying our time over the last couple of weeks, and I'm so excited to do it. And I love, again, all the feedback that you all give me, whether it's in the comment section, whether it's in the type chat, and the suggestions and stuff like that. It's just too much fun. So again, that will be starting in November, which if you think about it, it's like 2.5 months away, but it will be here before we know it. And I'm just looking forward to a whole month of quilting holiday fun. We're going to redo the set. We're going to have just lots of Christmas fun. So anyway, I'm excited about that. Again, if you need any details, click the link in the description box. Leave a comment. We'll definitely be glad to answer that for you. Before we go to any questions that were asked, I did write down a couple questions that came up in the type chat. I love, again, getting people's questions before we get started and kind of having those preloaded just in case. All right, somebody asked, how do I see the quilting when the thread I'm using, the color blends in? So what if I'm quilting white on white? So that is very tricky. There's not a lot of contrast in those colors, and your eye kind of doesn't see them. The good news is, if you can't see the quilting, you can't see your mistakes. So I look at that kind of as a bonus. But one thing you can do is turn off your overhead light. When the overhead light is shining on it, kind of just like makes everything kind of the same. If you can turn that off, whether if your machine has it, or cover it up with a piece of tape or something, and then allow the side light to show. It'll cast a subtle shade where you've quilted and kind of let you see where you've been. So that's kind of how I handle that. At my home, on my long arm, I kind of have a window off to the side, so I turn off all the lights in the room, and that little bit of side light helps me see what I'm doing. I will say the hardest is the black thread on black. I feel like white reflects a lot, so sometimes it's easy to see, but black is kind of like that black hole, just kind of sucks in. So just take your time and get there. It'll be totally fine. And then Jacqueline said that she's using clear thread, which I'm assuming is like a monopoly, but it's messing up. She wants to know what she can do with that. One of the things she said is it's kind of going into the bobbin thread. Monopoly thread is great. It's a clear kind of thread. Imagine something like fishing line. It's not fishing line, but something like that. And it's actually really great for quilting applique quilts when you don't want to see the quilting at all, especially if I'm having to quilt over a lot of different thread color or fabric colors and I want the quilting to just kind of go away. The tricky part about it is a very finicky thread to use. So a couple things. You're going to have to loosen the tension up quite a bit when you're quilting with that. You'll know if you need to if it's snapping a lot, and that seems to happen for me a lot. So you're going to loosen up the tension and then use a thread net or something around it to keep that thread from kind of slipping down and getting caught. So usually monopoly, the thread comes with a thread net that kind of just helps kind of keep it together. Now, as for it going into the bobbin, I'm kind of assuming that means that thread is showing up at the bottom. And so that means maybe the tension is too loose. If I'm thinking about the way that thread tension works, I kind of want it to pull up on there. So double check your thread path. That monopoly might have come out of the tension discs or something like that. It is a fun thread to use, but like I said, very finicky, and you're going to have to quilt slower, which is the main reason I don't actually use it a whole lot because I don't like to quilt slow. But hopefully that helps. All right, so those are the only questions I wrote down from the type chat. Do we have any questions come up during the live chat? You know Jessica loves me because she writes all of these questions down by hand. And I know there's other ways to do it, but we're so delightfully old school in some ways. It's kind of fun. One question, what is a great free motion design for beginners to do? So if you're starting out in machine quilting, which should be the thing you start with? The thing about machine quilting is there's not just like a linear path you follow. You can start with any design you want, right? Any way you want to go about it. But a good kind of one that is helpful or good for beginners is more like a loopy kind of meander, like a loopy kind of line that moves around in all different directions. But I would say in addition to that, if there is already something that you like to doodle and draw, that's where I would kind of lean. So if you were like, oh, I love to doodle leaves everywhere, well, let's do a leafy meander. If I like to draw hearts, the great thing about that is your brain already kind of knows how that shape goes together, and it's a lot easier to translate that to machine quilting. But when I started long arming all those years ago, I didn't like the look of a regular kind of stipple meander. So I just skipped over it. And that's totally fine to do as well. It's not like it's a building block to something bigger. So that's kind of how I'd answer that. How would I quilt the Radiant Night quilt? All solid colors on navy. I'm not sure what the Radiant Night quilt is, but I can imagine it has a lot of maybe colors gradually going. So solids are a little trickier with thread color because you can really see the thread on the solids. So I would probably change thread colors in those unless I'm doing it all over design. And maybe what I'll have to do is look up that quilt and give a more detailed answer afterwards. Oh, thank you. Oh, a lot of little pieces there. That's gorgeous. Yeah, so the good thing is it looks like that version that she just showed me looks kind of all the same value. So I'd try to find a thread color that kind of hits a lot of those colors because what you're not going to want to do is change in between all the little pieces. But as far as the designs that I would use, it just depends on what part of the quilt I want to show off. So if you like the center of the block, maybe I'll echo around that. But usually when I see quilts that are a little bit more complex like that, they tend to be a little bit easier to quilt because my only job is to not mess them up. Kind of the joke I like to make. The easier it is to piece, the harder it is to quilt because there's all this room. So in a little quilt like that, maybe some continuous curve and something kind of nice and basic. All right, how do I decide whether to quilt on a sewing machine or use a long arm? So this is a great question because I am very fortunate and I have both. I have a room upstairs full of long arms. It's our long arm education center because we're handy quilter dealers. But I also like to quilt on my sewing machine. When I started quilting many, many moons ago, I started with hand quilting and I went right from that to long arming. My husband's grandpa basically talked him into buying me a long arm quilting machine. So I went right to that. And then I had to come back later and show myself how to quilt on a sewing machine. So I had to kind of like work my way back so that I could teach it. So my first language is long arming. So I long arm almost every quilt that I do besides for the free motion challenge or a smaller project. unless there's something on my long arm frame at home that I'm trying to procrastinate on, and I might quilt on my sewing machine. So I tend to quilt on the long arm more. It doesn't matter what tool you have, sewing machine, long arm, doesn't matter what size. I think most people just don't use what they have to its full capability. So don't let that be a deterrent. You don't have to have a long arm to have some fun quilting. If you cut it up after it's all quilted, will the stitching come undone? Yes. So after I've quilted a panel, like especially this one, and then I trimmed it all up, I know that it's now like a ticking clock for those stitches to unravel, because all the stitches along the side have now been cut and they're going to slowly unravel as it moves around. So what we'll do is we will trim that panel and go right into binding. I'll say bind it up, or, handle it right then. If that makes you nervous, you could trim it and then do like a stitch all around the outside, but that just seems kind of like not fun to me, so I'm not going to do that. But very good question. When will the stencils be available? So we have them slated to ship around the same time, mid-September, but they might come in a little quicker. We'll see. I like to give us a little bit of room. They'll probably be quicker than that, but just in case. So I'm excited. And will the videos be taped so that we can watch them over and over again? Yes, I leave all my videos up indefinitely so that you can take advantage of them whenever it's convenient. If you're like, this is just too busy of a time of year, I don't have time to get to it, there's always next Christmas. So definitely go back and check out any of the previous video series we've done, because I keep them all up on my YouTube channel. I won't say forever, because nothing is forever. We'll just say indefinitely. So thank you so much for joining me. I love getting to talk about different things quilting, and I'm super excited about this video series. I hope you will quilt along with me as well. Now, one lucky winner, like I said, is going to win this stencil. I actually have 2 of these. This is the mock-ups that we got. So one person's going to get this before anybody else can get it. But for the rest of us, we can click the link and go ahead and order that. So the lucky winner is Helen Spang. So Helen Spang, drop us an email at customerservice@quiltingismytherapy.com with your address, and we'll get that sent out to you. And I'll be back with another live chat next week. I think I'm going to show some pictures of a Tula quilt, or Tula pink quilt that I finished up recently, and kind of talk about my process behind that. So until then, everybody, have a great weekend, stay safe, and happy quilting.